Okay, what's up? So I hope you guys can hear me. I'm outside in the car, out in the Bentley, And so I wanted to talk to you guys about knowing. So for those of you guys that are new to this channel, welcome. I'm Spirit Soul, right? And I just want to talk to you about knowing God, really. And so, man, I was having a conversation with my divine masculine, right? Yesterday we was riding through the mountains, and as we was riding through the mountains, we was talking about God, and how God is unfathomable. How you say it? Unfathomable, or however that word goes, right? But it's like you can't even put it into comprehension. You can't put it into words. But because we are human, right? Because we are so-called intelligent beings, we need an explanation for who or what God is. So the world made God a man, right? But source is more than man, woman. Source is more than we can even imagine. Although life travels a certain way when, a man and a woman get together and give life, but this is something totally different. And so God, source is I mean, you can't even explain it, right? So when I think about source, in order to know source, I have to go inward to know source. I have to go within me to know source, because God to me is different than God to you. Source to me is different than your source. It's different than my husband's source. Even though we are a unit, we have different sources. Like, we identify our God source differently, right? It's not the same as, with religion, you have different names and different specifications for different religions. No, but source is bigger than all that. Source is that knowing, that inner knowing. And then depending on how your inner knowing is, your God source will feel different to you, which is why it's okay for people to believe differently, right? Like when people ask me, well, if spiritualism is this, then who is God? Like, I can't even explain God. Like, I don't know. And you don't know. And nobody knows, right? Nobody don't know. But the ones that do know, they know God's self. Yeah, it's deep. It's deeper than we can even imagine. Because we have no explanation for why nature does what nature does, and we have no explanation for why animals maneuver like animals maneuver. And you don't see animals and trees and shit arguing about what source or what source is the right source and what source is the wrong source, because we're all utilizing the same source, right? We're all using the same source, but we just have different identifications for the sources that we use. But, man, knowing, we become so divided because we all may think that we know, but we don't know. And you can't tell me that you know who my God source is, and I can't even tell you if I know who your God source is, because we channel from different sources, hoping that it's of the same frequency and of the same vibration, because source is even more profound than frequency. Like, it's, I feel like if we drop the labels, the pronouns, I feel like if we drop the labels, the pronouns, the adjective, all of these things that are associated with source, or what God is, or what creation is, right? I feel like we would go so much further. I feel like there'll be more gratitude, there'll be less arguments, because literally people are not getting along because they don't agree with what you label your source as. They don't agree with what you label your source as. And all of those different books, right? All those different books that we read, because we got so much information in our minds. All those different books that we read, they're all literally talking about the same thing, but they gave, everything had a character. It needed an explanation. So everything had a character. So they created these characters of these peoples, of these individuals, that they look to for, well, I wouldn't say created, but they wrote about, or they wrote about people like us, right? Like us, like people that, come on and connect to their source, and you resonate with the source that they've connected with, and people wrote stories about people like us, and there are stories written about these people, and we utilize these people as navigational systems for us to navigate this 3D once we come into the light, right? Oh my goodness, look at that little kitten. Once we come into the light, right? So we utilize this, but it's all a consciousness. It has nothing to do with an individual. It has nothing to do with any of that, right? It has nothing to do with any of that, but we people made it about that, and now you're seeing people arguing about what this source is and arguing about what that source is, and like it's all the same. It's all the same. If you are vibrating at a certain frequency and you have this source and you have this certain level of consciousness, this certain level of awareness, I feel like it's all the same, but it's all about your knowing and your understanding, or your understanding, whatever jargon you want to use, right? Your understanding or your understanding, right? So I feel like source is when you go inside of yourself and connect it to you connect to your God source, right? You connect to your source channel, okay? But we don't, stuff like that, ain't nobody right. Ain't nobody right. Ain't nobody wrong. That's why you gotta do what resonates with you. Like when people do like different types of ancestor work, and then next thing you know, oh, you wrong. No, this is what works for my ancestors. And maybe you have ancestors like mine. But here's the foundation, and you add to. Or you find what works for you and your ancestors. But I'm just giving you what I discovered by using my inner knowing, by using my God source. And this is what I got. And the same for you, right? Same for you. We be arguing about stuff. People argue about stuff that they don't need to argue about when it comes to this right here. All right? I feel like as long as you ain't utilizing negative energy as your source, or, digging down and, whatever, playing with all these other little entities that mean no good as your source, then I feel like you're fine. Connecting with your God source on that certain frequency. But we know, y'all, we know our source. It could be 10 people from the same family, all have a different source. But as long as we're all on the same frequency, shifting in the same, operating in the same dimensions and things like that, man, I'm telling you all that stuff. Man, look at the little spider. You guys see a little spider that came again. Got a cat. Animals and insects, they just love me, right? They don't do me nothing. They just walk on by, sit down, hang out, They don't do me nothing. But listen, y'all, knowing, understanding, going inward, connecting with your source, man, and it's very important. But anyway, there is some good read material out there. I really like the raw material. It talks about constellation, things like that, and you can really understand like astrology and things like that, and how nature operates in a way, and different medium channels and all. It's wild. Like, if you ain't ready for the information though, you know, take your time with it. Make sure you ground after every read and all that other stuff. But like, that's just something I got. I just wanted to tell y'all like that. If you like, there's no reason to argue over who or what God is, because God is what you and your soul say God is. That's what I feel like. That's my own personal opinion. You ain't gotta agree. I don't care if you agree. I really don't. But that's pretty much it. I just wanted to talk about that because it came to my head, you know. And so, yeah, I'll holler at y'all.